those of you who don't know me, my name is Amanda Bowers, and I'm a homeschool mother of three children. My oldest is 13, a boy, and my middle child is a girl. She's 9, and my youngest child is 7, also a boy. So I've been homeschooling. I like to tell people I've been homeschooling really for 13 years because, in my opinion, homeschooling is nothing more than just an extension of our parenting. We begin teaching our children pretty much immediately from birth. And so most people I know don't really look at it that way, certainly not people who have never thought about homeschooling. They sort of put school in a separate box. But over the years, I have not done that. I've come to really realize that really homeschooling is just living our lives together with our children with some intentional time to teach them the three R's, of course, reading, writing, and arithmetic. But there's so much more to it than that. And so that's what I do. I've been married to my husband for a little over 24 years now, and so we have he's full time owner of his own eye care practice. So he works full time, but he has a lot of flexibility, and so outdoor life and travel was a big part of our how we did homeschooling. We did a great deal of that, and I actually been writing another blog um, for almost 4 years now called Verifies Outdoor Living. And on that blog, it actually started out as a travel blog, and then it sort of turned into just more of an outdoorsy kind of, camping, hiking, mostly RV travel, and ATV riding and hiking with your kids and those sorts of things. But that blog is still doing well. I'm very happy with it. But I always initially wanted homeschool to be part of that, and it just didn't quite fit. And so, ironically, the name Verifies, which is a really weird name, most people kind of think it means my name is Vera, but it's not. It actually came from a Charlotte Mason concept, the idea of veracity, which means to tell the truth, and then advise. So it was initially the thought was giving advice, truthful advice on travel and outdoor living. So that's what Verifies is about. But I really, really wanted to get into homeschooling and sharing our experience with others. I've always wanted to, but especially this year when I began to see, like most of you have probably seen in the homeschool groups, this explosion of people who now have had whatever you want to call it, distance learning, homeschooling, different things thrust on them, and really a huge interest, a big influx um, of people interested now in homeschooling. And so, even more so now, I'm very eager to share my experience. Um, it only recently dawned on me that I have probably graduated into the category of a seasoned homeschooler. I certainly don't want to think about myself as being seasoned, but I guess since my oldest is 13 and I have been homeschooling formally for about 9 years now, I definitely have moved out of the intro person. But like I've shared in the group already, I do not consider myself an expert. I'm always learning. Every single year is completely different because if you have children, I mean, I seem like I didn't figure this out until about the second year of my first child being born, but the phases change. As soon as you figure out one phase, it changes. It's like so fast. I've always felt like when they were babies, okay, I finally got this figured out. And then, of course, their sleep pattern would change or their eating pattern would change. And honestly, it's just been that way the whole way. And homeschool's like that too. So I'm always learning, always growing. But I wanted to hop on and I see I've got a couple of people watching now. So for those of you who just came in a little bit later, my name is Amanda. I have recently launched a blog called homeschooloutdoors.com. This group is sort of kind of an extension of that. I wanted to be able to reach parents who really want to incorporate nature and outdoors into their homeschool, maybe find better ways to do it, or just get ideas and inspiration. And I wanted to learn from others because, like I was just saying, I don't have it all figured out. I'm still learning. And nature study, this morning I noticed, I wanted to hit on this. Someone named Nicole, she was sharing her experiences. She was answering the questions, and she said, really struggle with the journal. My kids, quote, it's not their favorite. And I have to, I have to say to you, Nicole, I am totally right there with you. I've struggled with that all along, and being consistent with it has always been a struggle. And so I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I want to talk about that in a minute. But it's basically, I just started the group with the idea of, I'm sure there are other people out there that love to get outdoors. I have finally found something that seems to be working. It feels like I've seen this spark in my kids in the last couple of years. We've always been very outdoorsy. We've traveled a lot. My other blog that I used to write, or that I still write, but when we were focusing a lot on travel before Corona decided to destroy all of our lives this year, and take our travels away. We did a lot of national park travel, a lot of hiking. So outdoors was always a big part of it, but I did always struggle with it more than just being outside. Like, how did I incorporate that in there? How can I ensure they were actually learning anything? And it's an overwhelming topic. At least it felt overwhelming to me. And then you throw in Instagram and Pinterest and everybody with their beautiful nature journals. And I'm a very wordy person. I like to write, but I don't consider myself very crafty or artistic, and so it can be very overwhelming. And for a long time, I wasn't getting the practicality of quote unquote how to do nature study. It was just the words themselves. Just the idea of studying nature just seemed overwhelming. But in the last couple of years, I have really sort of seen more what, at least from a Charlotte Mason perspective, or from even an unschooling perspective, I think, how it works and without it feeling overwhelming. So that's kind of what I want to do here, is hopefully share with you guys as I go what we're doing every year and how or every month, and how we're focusing on, different topics, and just share the pictures, share the things we're doing, and resources that I use, books that we've read, particularly if I can find them. And I don't know if many of you have access to what we call living book libraries, but even if you don't, lots of things are available for free online, and so I'm happy to share all those resources as well. So that's a little bit about me. Let's see, and why I wanted to start the group. And then the last thing I just wanted to quickly just kind of talk about, I know I've got a poll up, so I do hope that all of you all that are in here, I think I saw the last count, we actually have 301 members now, which is, that's pretty exciting. But Facebook doesn't always show everybody everything. It's a competition for getting into the algorithm. So I hope that when you come in, or if you check it out, or if you have us on notifications, that you will check out the poll. That just helps me. I kind of want to know what everybody really is looking for in the group. Like, what are you interested in? And even though I put a few options in there, if there's something else that you're looking for, and it can be very specific, it doesn't have to be that broad. If there's like, I want to know more about mushrooms, or I want to know more about how to help my kids get excited about bird watching, write that in there, or leave me a comment and let me know, because I am super eager to just jump in there and share that with you and learn it with you, and let's do it together. I really hope maybe we could even consider doing some challenges together, and maybe coming back. I've already talked to my kids if they're willing to maybe even come back and, hey, let's go do a nature walk this week, and on one day of the week, let's come back and share with all the other people, whoever wants to jump in, what they found. So I don't know, just different ideas I've had that we might do. But in terms of struggling with consistency, up until about 2 years ago, and I've been homeschooling now for about 9 years, you really do in those early years kind of think, is this working? Sometimes I don't feel like this is working, because we do a very Charlotte Mason style. We cover anywhere from 10 to 13 subjects a week. I mean, sometimes a day, but 8 to 12 subjects a day. But we get all of that done for the most part before noon, because we do all of those principles of short lessons, and we switch things up, and it seems like a lot, but when you sit down and start doing it, it's not that much. I wanted to be outside because the sun color was better, but the wind's starting to blow. The lighting was better. But anyway, for years when they're little, you're like, I just don't know if this is working. I don't know if this is working. And you have that in the back of your mind that, what if I'm not doing enough? What if they're not getting it? And I certainly still have that. This is my last year with an elementary school student. I'm going into high school next year, so there's definitely a little bit of apprehension about that. But I can tell you, for you new mamas at least, in the last 2 to 3 years with my oldest, it's like something flips, and they start talk the way they talk and the things they say, and especially, if they're reading and learning things that you're not necessarily always teaching, because you're not always teaching it to them. You just don't realize what they're getting until they kind of just reach a point. It's like learning to walk. They fall, and then suddenly they walk. And that's been my experience with homeschool in general, and then now with this nature study. So I'm just going to pull up a little bit. I did do an article this week. I know that most of you started out, and most everybody that has answered the poll has said, I want to know how to do nature studies. So we're definitely going to do that, but that's going to be obviously multiple videos and topics, and I'm going to share some articles that I'm putting together, and hopefully some helps for you in that area. But before we can jump into how to do it, I think we do have to have at least a basic definition, what it is, because everybody has a different idea of what nature study is, and I don't think any of them are wrong. But this is just what as I've sat down and thought through and kind of read through some of the resources that I use, this is a working definition that I came up with. And so actually, before I jump into the definition, there was a quote I wanted to share with you. I'm sure if you're at all familiar with nature study, you've probably heard or seen the huge, what we call the nature study Bible that is extremely overwhelming. I mean, if you're not already overwhelmed about nature study, then you're definitely going to be overwhelmed when you see this. I know I was. And then you look at it and you think, well, it looks great, but, it's kind of like your kids when they first start learning to read. That's a lot of words, not enough pictures. But actually, it is a very, very helpful book. And when you sit down and take the time to just kind of look through it and read through it, it's great. And as I was looking through it this last couple of weeks, right in the very beginning, I found this great quote, and I thought this exactly is what I hope to convey to the group, on my blog, and to anybody that might be reading what I'm putting out there about nature study. And it says, "I know how to make magic for the teacher who is growing old." Now, of course, not all of us are growing old. I'm not saying that, but this hit home to me. "I know how to make magic for the teacher who's growing old. Let her go out with her youngest pupil and reverently watch with him the miracle of the blossoming violet and say, 'Dear nature, I know not of the wondrous life of these, your smallest creatures. Teach me.' And she will suddenly find herself young." And that's Anna Botsford Comstock. And I just felt like that quote actually just summed up perfectly in a nutshell what I think nature study is. And the reason that I was struggling with consistency or getting my kids excited about doing it or doing nature journal or whatever, a lot of that had to do with the fact that I wasn't following the principles that I know, which is I can't just tell my kids to go outside. I have to go with them. I need to go with them. It's good for me to go with them. And I need to admit to myself that I don't know everything, but Mother Nature can teach me. And I just thought that was a great quote, and it goes on. I don't have it quoted here, but to really say that you will feel young again yourself when you get out there and you begin to ponder and wonder the beauty of nature. And so that actually was the definition that I came up with. To me, nature study is a careful observation of natural objects and natural phenomena. So that's really the foundation. And I think everybody that's been in the group so far has said, yes, we love to get outside, we love to observe, we love to go on hikes. So we all do that. So really the extension of nature study is nothing more than just doing those things you're already doing, but slowing down a bit, taking the time to spend enough time out there to really observe. Let the kids play, let the kids run off their energy, let them do their thing. But then at some point after you've been out for an hour or so, let's go on a walk. And let's really look at what we're seeing. In the last week or so, my kids and I have found so many we found like 2. Yesterday we found a pawpaw for the first time, which I'd never seen. Sweetest smelling fruit. Just found it on the ground. I didn't know what it was. I was like, okay, well, we're taking it home. We opened it up. There was a seed. We looked it up on Google, found out it was a pawpaw, and they're edible, and they're very sweet. We didn't eat it. Actually, I can't find it. It got misplaced with the pumpkins somehow, but anyway, very sweet. But before that, we also discovered this dogwood tree that had these cherry, kind of a cross between a cherry and a strawberry looking fruit. And turns out they were edible. We did taste those. Those kinds of things, you can go on a hike and you just don't notice them unless you stop and observe them. But then you own it. Once you've observed it, once you've looked at it, you've taken it apart, your kids have gotten excited about it, they don't forget that. So that's really the foundation. It's that observation, getting them out there, guiding them, not spoon feeding them, not telling them everything, not having to go through the Handbook of Nature Study and know every answer to every question that those little inquisitive minds are going to ask you. It's just being excited with them, looking at it with them. When they're asking you the questions later or you don't know, I've told mine to start write it down in your nature notebook, because I don't know all those answers, but we'll look it up later. But keep track of those questions, and when we get a chance, we'll answer them. So it's those kinds of things. So nature study is a careful observation of natural objects and natural phenomena, watching, the birds, watching the ducks, watching the frogs, watching how they interact with each other. And then it's followed by that wondering and that pondering. And that comes so naturally to especially young children. But even my older child, now that we're intentionally looking at things. Even he, they'll think on it, they'll ponder, they'll ask questions. Well, why does it do that? And I don't know if you're familiar with John Muir Laws, but it's a great website. I can put a link in the comment section after this video. But he gives these 3 prompts, which are so great when you're out there. I wonder. You can ask the kids out to think, I wonder about whatever they're looking at. This reminds me of, and actually I got it backwards. The first one is I noticed. So I noticed this frog has bumpy wart looking things on his face. I wonder why he has them and the other frogs are smooth. Other frogs I've seen are smooth. And this reminds me of this frog that I saw somewhere else, or those sorts of things. But those prompts really kind of help. So we as a teacher, we can just nudge that. We can ask a few questions, but we don't have to know all the answers. We don't want to quiz them. We don't want to say, can you identify this tree and this leaf, and turn it into an uber science lesson or class. Not initially. We're really just wanting to observe and learn, and like the quote said, just let nature teach us. And that gets them excited. And so we did mushrooms last month, and it's been like crazy. Now everywhere we go, Mom, do you see this mushroom? Mom, look at that mushroom. Mom, can I take this mushroom home? I mean, kids naturally love that. And that's what Charlotte Mason knew. That's what most all naturalists, if you read what they'll talk about with children, it's very true. And that's the beauty, I think, of homeschooling, because it takes, I mean, I've certainly learned as I've homeschooled, I've learned so much that I didn't learn in school, because it's different. I mean, it's a dry textbook versus we're out here looking at this. Or even if we're reading books, we read a different kind of books than the textbook. We don't do a lot of textbooks, but it's a story format. It's a narrative, and so it's exciting. You get involved in the story, and and that's another great thing about it. We read the books when we're home, and then we go on the walk, and the kids are like, "Hey, this is like, the corn that we read about this morning in the Indian story book about the corn maze, and look, today we popped some popcorn from a little corn kernel or a corn cob that we got at the pumpkin patch yesterday. I had no idea you could do that. So that was pretty exciting. We actually put an ear of corn in the microwave, and here this ear of corn pops into popcorn, and they're not going to forget those things. That's exciting stuff. So doing the things with them, being involved with them. After the wondering and the pondering, then comes the inquiring and the questions and the research. And that'll come more with the older kids. But you as mom can kind of, sometimes it can come after or before. For me, I like to read sometimes whatever our topic is about. Like we're going to read about pumpkins and apples, and I think we're focusing on squirrels this month as we go throughout our school week. And then when we go on our nature walks, the kids are going to notice that more, and then they'll have their questions, and then we'll go back and look those things up. And then comes the telling of others and the recording. And this is where I found, like, my kids definitely struggled with the journals. I've struggled with the journals because I'm not an artist. I don't feel like an artist. But I really come to realize that you don't have to draw pictures. You can write. You can do poetry. You can keep charts and write down names of the birds that you've seen that week. Your journal is a journal. It's a diary. It can be whatever you or your child wants it to be. Generally, drawing will come, labeling will come, those things will come with time, but it doesn't have to start out that way. But what does happen is when they're excited about the mushrooms and about the bird they saw or about the frog, they're going to tell others. I mean, my kids are like, as soon as Dad walks through the door, Dad, we did this today. Dad, we did that today. They're going to tell people. They're going to tell Grandma about it. And then they're going to sometimes draw a picture, and then they're going to show the picture to others. So that's, in my mind, what nature study is. It's this careful observation, going out there with the kids, wondering and pondering about what you see, going back home and looking up the answers or finding the questions or finding a YouTube video to learn more about it. Then sitting down, and the one thing I will say that has made a difference with the nature study or the nature journal, and this has been something I've struggled with, is I have to keep one too. To really get them excited is if I sit down and I pull mine out, pull out the crayons and the paints, and I pull their stuff out, I don't have to prompt them as much. They're going to be more willing to sit down with me and do it. Whereas before, when I was kind of saying, you need to write in your nature journal, or I do get a little more pushback, or a little more, oh, I don't want to do that, Mom. So I found that when I'm doing it with them, they're a lot more likely to jump in there and, draw and chart and look up. And, I bring out the books, bring out the resources, and lay them on the table. Just having it available to them, not a strict lesson, that sort of thing. Now, I do lessons, I do plan and prepare. It's not that I don't. So what I'm doing this year and what I'm sharing with you guys is I'm picking 3 or 4. Charlotte Mason will call them special studies. Lots of people call them unit studies, but the difference in my philosophy, which comes more from a Charlotte Mason perspective versus a unit study, because when I first started, I thought it was unit studies, and I would get all eager about that as the teacher, pulling together everything, making all the connections. Here's what they need to learn about black bears and writing it all down, and then having them fill out diagrams and coloring sheets. But that's me learning about it, spoon feeding it to them. And they don't get as excited about that. They'll do it. And when they're little, they like to fill out the worksheets. And certainly I don't think that's wrong, and we use them from time to time. But I have definitely found that it's much better for my kids to keep the excitement going if I just read the books, read the stories about the topics, have the discussions, go on the walk, and then let them kind of draw in the journal and look up the things. And I'll prompt and I'll ask questions and I'll say, hey, I'm curious, what these parts of this plant was. So I'm gonna look this up and, kind of doing it together. But I don't want to make all the connections for them. I want to read various topics or various books on the topic to them, or have them read if they're older. I pick out books that are good for each age range, and when they have their reading time, they have to read some books that are in that topic of whatever we're focusing on. So I'll get books about squirrels or books about pumpkins or whatever and say, hey, today I want you to read some of these from this box. But all of that sort of works together to create that excitement. So that's kind of how we do it. I'm going to go into more detail in the weeks ahead, step by step. But that's how I see nature study. That's my philosophy of it. May or may not be yours. I'd love to hear how you guys do it. I have no problem with, obviously everybody has different curriculums, and I am putting together on the blog, I don't know if I'm going to call them curriculums, but guided resource tools to help people just, kind of pull the books together so you don't have to spend the time, that I spend, okay, here's the books that I'm going to read for this subject, and here's the pages in the Handbook of Nature Study that go along with this topic, and here's some questions that I might ask when we're out on the hike. So I'm just going to kind of pull that together and create those kinds of resources for people. But I don't do full-blown unit studies where, I'm going to tell you everything that your kid needs to know about a mushroom, because you couldn't do that even if you tried anyway. And they're not going to get as excited about it if you're doing it for them. It's going to be so much better if they discover it on their own. So anyway, that's my rambling live video today. Gone about 23, looking like 24 minutes now. So thank you to those of you who hopped on, and hopefully some more folks will see this later. And I apologize, it's not very polished. I'm just, like I've told you in the beginning, I'm kind of a regular mom. I do love to write. I love to share. I love to teach people. I love to share my experiences with others, and I'm very excited. Some of y'all have shared. I think most everybody that has commented, for the most part, sounds like they were either already had a heart to homeschool or they've been homeschooling for a few years. We don't have too many folks that sound like they were kind of forced into it, but we've had one or two who've said, well, it was on my radar, and now thanks to COVID, we've been forced to do it, but I'm so grateful. And I love those stories. I've really been excited to watch. If there's been at least a silver lining in all of this craziness that we've all been through this year, it has been to see parents, that light bulb go off in so many parents' minds that they can do this. And that is the most exciting thing to me in the world. I love when parents realize that they can do this and they actually like this and their kids like this, and it's better for them, it's better for their families. And so I'm super excited about that. It's not easy. Parenting isn't easy. And there are days that are really hard, and there are days that I really mess it up. So I'm not here to say I'm an expert at all. But I can say I have never regretted it. I've never regretted one single moment. As a matter of fact, for years I've always felt so bad as we would drive by, on our way to the library or on our way to a hike. We would drive by that school line that so many of you, I'm sure, have sat in, and I've always thought, thank you, Lord, that I don't have to sit in this line of cars and leave my kids and take my kids to school every day. So now there certainly are days when I'm like, I need a break. but I'm very happy with the homeschooling, and I love the outdoor stuff and the ability that we have to just kind of do so many different things as a family and learn together. So for those of you who are new to it, especially if you have little ones, I'm so excited that you're here. I hope that it'll be a source of encouragement to you. Please feel free, all of you. I hope that you will, like I put in the intro, this is our group. This is not my group. Please feel free to come in and share your pictures. Tell us where you've been. I have one request, and I haven't done this myself, is I will hope you will tell us at least if you've been to a specific hike, or like, maybe you've gone to a national park or a state park. Tell me where they are, like where you went specifically, in your comments, because like I said, we do love to travel. So if you share something that looks really awesome, I may want to go there. And there may be others that want to do that too. And hopefully I'll have a few more viewers in the future. You guys can hop on here and kind of tell me where you're from, share your name, and leave a comment and let me know, because I'd love to get an idea of where everybody is. I know we have some people out west, and I think one or two that are close to Zion National Park, so super excited and jealous of that. I'm actually in East Tennessee, so I'm right on the little tip. We're way up, really it's northeast Tennessee, so we're past Knoxville. Most people are familiar with Memphis, Nashville, and Knoxville, but there's a little bit further past Knoxville, just this little corner of Tennessee. So we border Virginia and North Carolina. We're right in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains. I'm about an hour and a half northeast of the Smokies. So we have a lot of beautiful, obviously, creation to get out and enjoy, and we do that very often. But we started going out west, I guess in 2017. We did California, and in 18 we did Colorado and Wyoming, and we have so much left on our bucket list. I'll be so glad when this Corona stuff is over and we can resume traveling. But in the meantime, we'll make the most of where we're at. But so I love it. If you guys are from other places, I love to see those pictures where you guys get out and see nature, and just so please share that and tell us where you were, and just chat with us, because I want to hear what's going on with you and how you do outdoor in your homeschool. Give me feedback if you watch this on what you think, and like I said, not polished, just wanted to kind of come on and share my heart and tell y'all who I am and what I hope to do with the group. And anyway, that's it. I don't know that I'll do these every single week. I would certainly like to. That'll kind of be up to you too, what you're interested in. But we'll try to hop on at least occasionally and talk a little bit about what's going on. And I'll just plan to sort of share with you all, like I said, what we're doing, and give you the resources as we go. And as time goes on, I'm going to create those into units, so that hopefully anybody coming in new, they'll be able to hop on. And obviously I'm hoping this will become a resource. And also, two other quick things, and then I'll go. So definitely do come over. There's not a lot of content yet. I'm still writing, but homeschooloutdoors.com is my website. So I'd love for you to hop over there and check it out. I think I've got a couple of freebies. If you are interested in Charlotte Mason, I've got some samples for early elementary, just the subjects we use, and some sample schedules. So you can sign up for those and get on my email list. It's not active yet. The email list is not, I'm not got a newsletter going out yet, but I will very soon be putting out the newsletter. And also I'd love to follow you on Instagram, because I've been trying to share my stories over on the Facebook with Instagram. The Facebook is just so squirrely these days. I mean, every time you turn around, they're changing stuff, and I cannot stand this new platform. I know I'm gonna have to go to it. I keep switching back every 48 hours. But it's hard for me to tell. I think my stories are showing up there, but sometimes it seems like they show up on my personal wall instead of my instead of the page. So I can definitely tell at Instagram, that it's there. And so I'd love to follow you if you do Instagram, and I know all you outdoorsy people probably do. So please leave me a comment on this video and share your Instagram channel. I would love to follow you. And mine is at homeschool period outdoors, homeschool.outdoors, because somebody else already had the other one. So, and I'll leave a link to that in the comments as well. But I would love to follow you guys on Instagram. So anyway, that's all I've got. It's been over 30 minutes, so hopefully we'll get some feedback, and talk to you all later. Thanks. Bye-bye.